And we welcome you to Dodger Poke Report, where today we have a very, very, very special guest. High A Great Lakes manager Austin Chubb joins Dodger Poke. So, Austin, I want to welcome you in and thank you so much. Congratulate you, first of all, on being rehired in 2022. I think that was more just of a formality. I think everybody knew that was coming, but we'll get to some of your experiences in the Dodgers organization. But first of all, congratulations.
Thanks, Casey. Really appreciate you having me.
We're going to talk about all the experiences you've had, and I know they have been really, really, really cool. But first of all, let's back it all the way up. You're from Florida, and obviously being from Florida, you like to fish. So have you got any fishing time in the off season? I want to know that first. And then I've got to know, what in the heck is a hoodie pillow? I mean, what is that?
So I have not done much fishing. I normally do. But I went down to Mayaguez, Puerto Rico for winter ball. So I have not been home much over the past year. Got to come home for, I guess, 3-4 weeks after the season ended in Great Lakes. And then I was off to Puerto Rico and got back 10 days or so ago. And then the second part of that question, the hoodie pillow, that was actually something I saw, I believe it was on like a Chase Utley Instagram. And so I said, man, that looks pretty comfortable and would be perfect on a long bus ride. That was actually 2019 when I was managing in Ogden, and there was some brutal bus rides there. So it was just like a neck pillow with a hood included. So to answer your question, yeah, that's what it is.
Anything you can do on a however long your bus ride trip was to get a little bit more comfortable, right?
Exactly.
You know, you're the type of guy that, and I've never met you in person, but just kind of following you, you seem like what I call a gym rat type of guy, meaning you just simply can't get enough of the game of baseball. You never stop learning. You know, you're just always wanting more of it. And I know you've had a chance to at least in the past, be around Tommy Lasorda before he passed, obviously. And I know those were some big moments for you, and I know you learned a lot from him. And now, especially since you're starting your managing career. So talk about some of the moments you got to spend with him, how awesome he was, and some of the things that you took away from your interactions with the legendary Dodger.
Yeah, so really good question and point. Tommy, so my first year coaching was 2016 in Ogden. I was a hitting coach, and Tommy managed in Ogden, which I wasn't really aware of, all of his history. But he made a trip. He actually made, I believe, 2 or 3 that year. Just loved coming to Ogden. So I have some fond memories of him just, sitting in the locker room after, games and telling, some of his legendary stories. And then got the chance to manage in 2019 in Ogden and had some visits from him, him sitting in the manager's office and, just an iconic figure that really I was amazed at the way he treated minor league coaches, for one. Like, he didn't have to do that. And, we were pretty starstruck, but the way that, he tells stories, he remembered my name. I had been around him, a fair amount of times, but for him to have that type of memory, especially at that age, it was pretty impressive. So, just an iconic figure, and to be able to be around him was, very special.
You've been in the Dodgers organization for a long time, both as a player and now obviously as a manager, and you've had experiences in the international leagues through the Dodgers and then through Ogden, and we'll get to Great Lakes, obviously, this last year in 2019. I know in 2020 you were supposed to move up to Rancho, which at that time was low A, but there obviously the season got canceled. And then in 2021, this last season, you're in High A Great Lakes. So you've been a Dodger for a long time. The Dodgers win the World Championship in 2020. You did not get to manage that year because you were supposed to be in Rancho and it got canceled. So take us through what 2020 was like for you when the Dodgers won the World Series, and when you got to see that World Series ring. That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, so, obviously 2020, was a tough year for a lot of people. Our season got canceled, obviously, on the minor league side. So it ended up being pretty cool because we were able to follow the major league team, and without having baseball in our lives, obviously a strange year, but the shortened season, I felt like made each night, each game, that much more important. So being able to follow it, very closely, when we're during a minor league season, you're playing most of the time that, the Dodgers are playing. So you get back in after a game, especially in Great Lakes on the East Coast, you might have a chance to watch some innings, but depending on where you're at, you don't actually get to watch the big league club a lot. So getting to follow that closely, and then after, almost getting a ring in 17 and 18, and then finally, the Dodgers finishing it off was special. And then, that ring, it was pretty insane when I saw it in person. But I think more than anything, just, for the staff and really that core group of players that, came up through the minor leagues. Obviously, on the minor league side, we weren't there, but I think we all, felt that was a pretty special accomplishment because of the homegrown talent in LA.
No doubt about it. And we'll get to the homegrown talent, what I call the Dodgers culture that you have helped build. And now you're you're helping to nurture into the current Dodger round of prospects. But you mentioned working closely with not getting to see necessarily the games, but you work closely with the big club. What is the communication like with them? Do they call you on a daily basis, or do they call and ask you about certain prospects? How does that communication line work?
So more so just communication with, Will Rhymes, the farm director, who's in direct communication with guys in LA, and Andrew Freeman, Brandon Gomes and company. So more so communicating with him through them. But, I just feel like the Dodgers organization as a whole is just very tight knit. I'm biased, but, getting to talk to people in other organizations, I think it makes me realize how special the Dodgers are, whether that's, the player development side to the big league side to the front office to scouting, all of it. We have scouts, Josh Burns coming in town, sitting in the office with me and, just talking about players and being able to just talk about prospects and these guys hopefully getting to LA one day.
You mentioned the word the tight knit. That's how you called it. It just seems like every which way along the way, I talk to players who have been traded that have come into the organization, players that have been in the organization since they become a professional, now talking to a high Great Lakes manager. Just seems like everybody's on the same page in this organization as far as what they want this culture to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the recipe for success. It's not easy to do, but 2015 was my first year with the organization. It's kind of crazy thinking about. It's a long time. Makes me feel a little bit older. But that was the year, Gabe Kapler was the farm director year, and that kind of kick-started what's been a pretty unbelievable ride for the Dodgers and what the entire organization, what they've been able to accomplish over that time span.
Of course, I cover, all the Dodgers teams now, going all the way down to even some of the rookie teams, but I'm in the Oklahoma area, and I've watched the Oklahoma City Dodgers ever since they came to Oklahoma in 2015. And so I actually got to see one of the games that you played in Oklahoma City. Well, it wasn't in Oklahoma City. It was in Salt Lake, and I kind of giggled because you know who the pitcher was that night in Salt Lake?
It was Andrew Heaney.
It was, yeah. It was, yeah, and you went 2 for 4, dude. So you've got big time bragging rights, don't you?
Of course, I remember that. And actually, I was watching MLB Network, and it popped up that we had signed him, and I was like, "Yeah, my bad. 2 knocks off that guy." So yeah, that was. I wasn't up in Oklahoma City long, but that was a really cool experience.
Yeah, Yasmani Grandal was there. He was a designated hitter that night, I believe. Of course, Corey Seager was a shortstop. So that was a star-studded team, but. That was
Seager went 5 for 5 in that game with 2 homers. So I thought I might get a little love, and I didn't, because Seager obviously stole the spotlight. And then he was in the big leagues a few weeks later, so that was cool.
That 2015 season, I don't know if you know this either, but Oklahoma City played a 19 inning game that summer, and Corey Seager played every inning, and that was when I really fell in love with his game, just simply from the fact that just watching his mannerisms, man, the dude was a stud. It looked like he was enjoying the whole time. So, it's neat that you mentioned him, and that was a cool experience for me to get to watch him. But anyways, yeah, let's back up just a little bit as far as your career. Let's go back to your college days, if you don't mind, at Florida Southern. You played for the legendary coach Pete Myers there, who, that program is a Division II powerhouse. They've won 9 national titles. They've been runners-up 4 different times. 30 different draft picks were produced underneath the guidance of Pete Myers. He was your head coach and the assistant athletic director all at the same time. So do you mind talking about your college days there at Florida Southern?
Yeah, so I was at Florida Southern for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Manatee Community College before that. So played at the junior college level in Florida and then Division II. Those 2 years were obviously special, and Florida Southern has a rich, tradition, history, a lot of major league players. And, I'm biased towards maybe a smaller program, being in Florida with the big Division I schools. But, man, I played with some really good players at the junior college level. And then, that's a Division II school, but could easily compete with Division I, schools every year. And playing for Pete, he was the athletic director and the coach. We went through a coaching change my junior year, my first year there, after transferring from Manatee. And Pete, was the AD, and then he took over, and just a baseball guy, an awesome guy. We don't keep in touch a whole lot, but a couple times a year, and just a great guy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's baseball is such a great thing, any sport really, but you learn so much along the way from different people, and a guy like you, a guy like me, or whoever, you kind of take from this guy and take from that guy to mold into what you eventually want to be. And I say that to segue into your professional managing career, and kind of like players, you start in rookie ball and you work yourself to low A, and then you work to high A. You've kind of done the same thing you've done the same thing as a manager. You have just about every experience that any player in minor leagues might want to lean on as far as, hey, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? You've coached 2 summers or 2 leagues or 2 years in the Dominican League. You coached this past winter, am I correct, in the Puerto Rican League? Would that be correct?
Yes.
And then so you've coached in the rookie league at Ogden. You were going to coach in low A Rancho. Now you've coached in high A Great Lakes. So basically, if you're a guy standing on a minor league field and Austin Chubb is your manager, he's got every bit of advice that you could possibly need, speaking from experience perspective. Does that help you?
Yeah, I mean, I when you bring that up, that's kind of neat. But I mean, I've definitely had, different experiences as a coach, but then, also as a player.
Mm-hmm.
My stay in AAA wasn't long, but having experience at each level, obviously helps. I don't think playing or, the playing side necessarily defines you as a coach. Coaches or players, they want to get better. That's the bottom line. But I think having different experiences and being able to relate firsthand with players and something they might have gone through is obviously very important.
Yeah, and not only, you talked about the actual on the field experience, but you also had the experience as a player of going through free agency, changing organizations. And I know, especially for guys that play for you that 20, 21, 22, 22, 23 years old,
yeah,
and you're experiencing these things for the first time, that's probably a lot of experience that you can give to them as far as how to handle those situations, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Those experiences are great. And being a minor league player is obviously awesome, but it's not always easy. So I think experience is king when it comes to that, whether I went through it personally or being able to, see how different players go through, each level and kind of the day-to-day at a certain area or certain place.
You're at that very vulnerable stage for all the prospects, meaning that, they're still pretty young and they're very talented, and they're at one of the most vulnerable stages of their career as far as being needing to be nurtured into becoming a professional. You're teaching them how to be a professional. And so, how do you take that great challenge as far as taking a young guy and making sure that they get mentored properly?
Yeah, that's a good point, especially, at the high A level. I feel like that's a unique level for the reasons you just brought up, but kind of a level where you might have a younger type prospect, who is excited to be there. And then you might have a guy who could kind of be, on the fence, maybe a little older, and it's either make or break. They take the next step to get to double A, and they could see their career take off, or maybe their career ends. So that was obviously, last year and going through that and seeing that was, interesting. And I feel like the high A level is, like you said, it's a crucial level for development. But I think more than anything, like, my style is just to kind of let guys play and teaching them. But really at that level, just letting them go out and play and make mistakes and, helping them, where I see fit and the rest of our staff sees fit.
Yeah, and one of the great things about being in the game of baseball is that you're around these guys or these people, everybody in the organization every day, more so than you are your family many times. So you develop these really airtight relationships. And so when guys do go on and they get to make it to double A, then triple A, and then eventually into the major leagues, that has to be a very gratifying moment for you and gratifying situations for a guy like you that you really helped them at one of the most crucial times of their career. That has to be exciting for you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously baseball is a fun thing to be a part of. We're competitive, we want to win, but at the end of the day, it'll probably sound cliche, but the relationships are what it's all about. And like a guy that comes to mind is that I've been fortunate enough to manage is like a guy like Andy Pages.
Yeah.
Had him in the Dominican his first year when he was 17, in the DSL. And then, he actually 2018, moved up to Ogden, had him in rookie ball, and then got to manage him the entire year. So like he's only had a few managers in pro ball. So I've been lucky enough to be able to, watch him grow and develop. So like those are, pretty cool.
I always talk about, especially whenever you're in a draft class with other guys, the brotherhood that you create because of the situations like we just mentioned, being around each other all the time. But it really is an interesting dynamic because a lot of times it's not that you're competing against your teammates, but you do have the same goals. And a lot of times, those goals are one guy gets to do it and the other guy doesn't as far as getting to advance or do this or that. So you're trying to be teammates. You're trying to create a culture that is team first, but then it's very individualistic in the sense that each guy's trying to move up themselves to reach their own goals. How do you manage that as a minor league manager?
Yeah, that's a good good question and a good point. It's not always easy. Obviously, like from a manager standpoint or as a staff, we try to sell to the guys that being an unselfish type player will bring out the best in them, which I truly believe. But when it comes down to it, that's what makes the minor league so unique is that like guys are to some degree playing, they're playing for themselves. They're playing for their families. They want to be able to make money. It is a business. So that's obviously a hard thing. But I think, more than anything, we want to see those guys reach the big leagues with the Dodgers. But I think one thing that you can sell to players is that every time you step on the field, it's an audition for somebody. There's always scouts in the stands. So, there's 30 other teams. And while, I want guys to, reach the big leagues in LA and help us win another World Series, that's just not, it's not the case. So I think you're going to see, a guy like maybe Donovan Casey, Keibert Ruiz, those guys got opportunities elsewhere. So I think more than anything, like anytime you step on the field, it's an audition, and you're trying to advance, whether it's, to LA or with somebody else.
I have talked to players who have played underneath you. You are definitely what is considered a player's coach. What does that mean to you? What is a player's coach? How do you
Well,
become a player's coach?
I like hearing that. I was fortunate enough to have good mentors and coaches growing up. One comes to mind is Bill Hasselman. He was my manager in 2015, and has kind of been a mentor to me. I feel like I took a lot of things from his style, and that's just to guys are professionals, let them play.
Yeah.
Obviously, when they need a kick in the butt, I'm going to give it to them. But I think more than anything, trying to never forget that baseball is really hard. Players are going to respect that. They're going to make mistakes. So I think, finding the right moment to talk to guys about certain things and teach them and develop them, is obviously important. But players, for the most part, know, when they screw up or when they do good or whatever it may be. So that's kind of my style, is just to let guys do their thing. I just expect them to play hard and play to win. So if they do those things, I feel like I'm pretty easygoing.
So you're a guy, you're a manager, you're competitive. Obviously, that's the first thing you have to be if you're going to be successful at any sport, is ultra competitive. And here you're having this good year, and Great Lakes puts off a great environment. It's a great place to play baseball. And then you're rocking along and you're in this, you're trying to win your division. And then all of a sudden, come about late July, you lose about 6 of your best players every single year. So how do you manage that balance between trying to win the division, but then you lose all your best players right at the end of the year?
Yeah, so that's a good point. And obviously a tough one. It's expected and it's going to happen. I think from a coaching standpoint, we take pride in the fact that, we helped players get to the next level, because ultimately that is the number one job for us. But, I would be lying if I said we didn't want to win.
Sure.
The same thing happened in 2019 in Ogden. Lost Brandon Lewis and a couple arms before the playoffs there. But I think, from our standpoint, like, I know there's good players in low A, and there's guys who are going to come step right in. So from a culture standpoint, like, it's just next man up. That sounds cliche, but that really is how it is. And I think we have the best scouts in the game, and we have good talent from, the DSL all the way up to the big leagues. So there really isn't an excuse. I think, I feel fortunate to be managing in an organization like this one, because, I like to say you're only as good as the players on the field as a manager, and we have really good players. So I probably reap the benefits, of that to some degree. But I guess I haven't screwed them up either at the same time.
You came from Florida, and you're managing in Midland, Michigan, which is a great place to play. Kind of cold in the spring, though, isn't it? Did you have to get used to that a little bit?
So last year, the minor league season got pushed back a month.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we probably benefited from that just as much as anybody. But I will tell you, May was cold. I'm soft when it comes to cold weather. It's been in the it's been in the 40s here in Florida. I got, it's 85, 90 degrees in Puerto Rico, and got back to Florida and it's, 40 degrees. I'm like, what's going on? So I don't know how I'm going to deal with it. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I think there's snow covering the field today in Midland. Was talking to some of the front office yesterday. So I don't know what it's going to be like. We'll probably hit in the cage a lot before the game. So we'll see. But, it's our job. So we'll find a way to get it done.
The Dodgers, I'm sure, buy you thousands of dollars worth of gear every year. Just make sure one of those items is a really, really good coat and a pair of gloves, right?
No doubt. I did not have gloves last year,
no.
And I was just telling my girlfriend the other day I've got to order some gloves to the clubhouse in Midland.
This is the second time in your Dodgers career that you're going to get to go back to back at the same location. You got to go 2 years in a row in the Dominican League. Now this is your second year in Midland, Michigan, with the Great Lakes Loons, the high A affiliate of the Dodgers. And so I know you're big on community. You're big on that. You like to reach out into the community, get them involved with your club. So what types of things do you think you're going to do in 2022 to connect the the Great Lake Loons to the community of Midland?
So that's something that I'm really looking forward to this year. Last year with COVID restrictions, it was very
Mm-hmm.
minuscule. So we did not get to do much, community type stuff because of that. So that was one of the things, that I was thinking about, and obviously the Loons front office is fantastic, first class. They'll have some things set up for us, to get out and get into the community. John Shoemaker was there as a mentor to me and was very involved there. But the Loons are first class, and we'll be, obviously willing and look forward to getting out in the community.
John Shoemaker, you mentioned his name. He is the Low A Rancho Cucamonga manager.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you are the High A Great Lakes manager, and then at Double A you have Henney, which Scott Hennessy. He coached at Cali County, which is in Ark City, Kansas, which is very close to me, and actually recruited several of my friends that I played baseball with. So he is a legend around this area. Then you have Travis Barbary, who is first class individual, and then obviously Dave Roberts. So kind of like we were talking about with the players, although it's an individual deal, you still love all your teammates, and it's very much so a teammate-oriented organization. So you got to love the fact that you're managing around all these other great people in the organization, right?
Yeah, I mean, just amazing guys. During spring training, we'll, have some exclusive type meetings just for managers. We're obviously all pretty close. So, just sitting, talking baseball with those guys, hearing stories, and things they've done in the past and trying to learn from each other is it's pretty special.
As a manager, it cannot be done without all the people that help as far as on the peripheral, then all the assistants, the bench coaches, the hitting coaches, the pitching coaches. Take this time to thank everybody that helps you become the great manager that you are.
Yeah, no doubt. Like I was saying, players, staff, I think, getting the chance to move up a little bit and be around a front office that's a little bigger. I did, the Dominican, where we had over 100 players at one point. There's maintenance staff, there's a kitchen there, there's so many different people, behind the scenes doing things. Like, I'm just very grateful, and feel blessed and fortunate to be in the position that I'm in.
You have a great message for kids. You didn't go to of course, you went to a powerhouse university to play college baseball, but it wasn't a Division I university, and then you worked your way up as a player all the way to AAA baseball. You earned everything you got. As a manager, you've gone step by step by step, and you could not have done it in more of a humble way. So if you need an example of how, you have to pay your dues and there's no magic wand to this, Austin Chubb is that guy to use as an example. So what is your message for young kids that are out there that want to become a professional baseball player someday? How do they do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just hit it right there on the nose. I think it's a different, amateur game now with all the, showcase, travel teams. And that's a completely different world. It started to get, bigger when I was in high school, I think when I was 15 or 16 years old. But I truly believe, and once again, I'll say it sounds cliche, but I believe that if you want to do it and you work hard, you're a good teammate, and you get the chance to show what you can do and put up numbers and, showcase yourself. I believe that it doesn't matter what school you're at. Doesn't matter how many showcases you go to, but I believe that with the amount of scouts and being able to see it firsthand, I believe that they'll find you. So I think more than anything, it's instead of worrying about where you're at, just focus on getting better every day. And I think, that would be my message, is to just continue to work hard. And I really do believe that good things happen to good people. Doesn't always happen that way, but I think people who work hard, don't complain, I think, good things happen to them.
Awesome message from an awesome person, from an awesome baseball guy, an awesome manager. I can tell you that from personal experience. I know people who have played for him, and he is no doubt a player's coach. He is absolutely the perfect guy for the situation he's in. He is going to ascend in this game. We're talking about Austin Chubb, as you see on your screen. And there is no doubt in my mind that you will be a very successful major league manager someday, just with the way that you approach this game, the way that you're putting the time in, the way that you're paying your dues. That is your destination, and I am very excited to watch you ascend through the ranks and see how this thing goes for you. But I have one more question, and this is kind of a goofy personal question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Do you ever get called Nick Chubb?
I haven't.
Oh, really?
It's kind of crazy. Like, I had not seen too many other Chubbs outside my immediate family, and then we saw a Nick Chubb and I think a Bradley Chubb, maybe the Broncos. So I don't know, but those two are obviously amazing athletes, so it's pretty cool. I think I need to find a Chubb jersey. Maybe I'll rock that in the locker room.
Well, no offense, because you are a big deal being the manager of the High A Great Lakes Loons. But when I told people I was talking to Austin Chubb, they're like, "You mean the running back for?" I can't remember what Tessa.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, anyways, I just thought I wanted to ask you that question and see how that went. You're a great sport with that, so thanks for answering that question. And thank you so much, Austin Chubb, for joining Dodger Poke Report. You have a huge fan. You're an awesome dude. You're an awesome manager, as I said, and I'm greatly looking forward to watching your career and getting to see some of the players and talk to them as we go along the way that you've gotten to nurture and manage and coach and help along the way.
Thanks, Casey. I appreciate you having me on and taking the time.